This is a video about the formation of the subjunctive for Latin GCSE, so only focusing on the imperfect and pluperfect tenses of the subjunctive. At the top you see that we have the principal parts of the verb paro, parare, paravi, paratum, which is going to mean to prepare. Now if we have a quick look at the table of subjunctives for Latin GCSE, we notice the imperfect and pluperfect down the left hand side and both the active and passive voices. And you can see that it's colour coordinated to show which principal part is used to form which tense and which voice. However, if we focus on the imperfect active to start off with, we see that it comes from the second principal part, the perfect active infinitive, to prepare. Now to this we add the active personal ending, so we add mst, mustisunt, and get pararem, parares, pararet, so it's actually nice and straightforward. Now the imperfect passive subjunctive is also nice and straightforward. We use the same principal part, so the second principal part, but instead of adding the active personal endings, this time we add the passive. So instead of mst, mustisunt, we add r, ris, ter, mur, mini, unter to get parare, parareris, parareta, and so on. The pluperfect active subjunctive uses a different principal part. It uses the third principal part, which is the perfect indicative, I prepared. Now to this, we add the letters sse, and then on to the end of this, the active personal endings. So mst, mustisunt again. So we get parawisem, parawises, parawiset. Now these personal endings, we said that it's added to the third principal part plus the letters sse. This is also the equivalent of the perfect active infinitive. So you can think of the pluperfect active subjunctive as the perfect active infinitive, to have prepared, plus the active personal endings. Now the pluperfect passive subjunctive is slightly different in that it's actually two separate words that are going to change. Now it's formed from the supine, or the PPP, the fourth principal part, and to this we add another word. We add the infinitive of sum, which is esse, followed by the active, note the active, not the passive, the active personal endings, and these are joined as a separate word. So we get paratus plus esse as a separate word with mst joined on the end. So we get paratus essem, paratus assess, paratus asset. Note, however, in the plural that this us ending changes to parati assemus. Now the reason why it's changed from an from an us to an e is because we're now in the plural. Parati assemus is we, so it needs to have a plural ending rather than a singular one. Now this is going to agree with the subject of the subjunctive. So if the subject of the subjunctive, is masculine, then this us and e ending are fine. But if it's feminine, it's going to be parata sm and paratai assemus in the plural. And this is also going to change accordingly depending on whether it's neutral or not. Now notice that these endings though are always going to be nominative because they are always going to agree with the subject of the infinitive. So if we have a quick look back to our table, we see that the first two principal parts are used to form the imperfect subjunctive. Really, it's the second principal part, the infinitive. And in the pluperfect for the active, it's the third principal part, and the pluperfect passive subjunctive uses the fourth principal part, the supine.